The idea of seeing someone's potential before they see it in themselves. But the thing is, everybody's potential is so vast. And I don't want to be so arrogant that I identify the wrong potential. So it's really tricky to do what Jack did and step in and direct somebody without actually learning who they are.
So standing in the gap is about giving back. It's about showing up for people who have no one else to show up for them. I am Dr. Tanja Williams, president of St. Petersburg College, and you are listening to Standing in the Gap.
My name is Susan Demers. I'm one of the academic deans here at St. Petersburg College. I'm the dean of public policy, public safety, ethics, and legal studies. I stand in the gap largely as an administrator for my colleagues, but I'm lucky enough to teach in the classroom every semester. And my job as both an administrator and as a classroom teacher is to help people get over their gaps. So like many people who come to St. Petersburg College, I came to SPC to change my life. I'd had a devastating pregnancy, neither of the children survived, and I ended up with really bad physical consequences. I had a stroke, I was wheelchair bound, although I could walk with canes. And as I tried to adjust to this new version of me, I could no longer practice law, so I came to St. Petersburg College. At the time, our athletic director was Jack Boris. And he saw me walking across campus about 3 months after I got here. And he introduced himself as the PE teacher. He was our athletic director, but to him, he was the PE teacher. And he said, I noticed you walking earlier today, but now you're using canes. Why is that? And I said, well, I got exhausted. And he says, I can help you with that. And he took me over to the gym, introduced me to a trainer, set me up with a plan, because he saw that I was walking at some point in the day and that I was compromising my own posture and my own ability simply because I lacked the strength. Well, that story about lacking the strength is I think of often because when I look at my students and they can do many of the things they need to do, but they don't feel strong at it. And so they're willing to use whatever canes are available to them rather than just digging in and being strong for themselves. Sometimes I find a student who has engaged in what we in academia call patch writing, finding a good sentence from one place and a good sentence from another place and a good sentence from another place. But when I talk to them about what the idea is, their ideas are much more fluid and much more entertaining than these ideas that they settled for when they patch wrote the paper. The idea of seeing someone's potential before they see it in themselves. But the thing is, everybody's potential is so vast. And I don't want to be so arrogant that I identify the wrong potential. So it's really tricky to do what Jack did and step in and direct somebody without actually learning who they are. So yes, I do think it's stepping in and seeing potential, but I also think it's about it not being one time. It's about building a relationship over time so that when you have misidentified the potential, you are not so arrogant that you don't say, I was wrong. You can do something much bigger. For many years, I've taught paralegal classes, and my students will say, I think I want to be a paralegal. And then they'll say, I want to be a lawyer, because that's what they think is the next step. Well, sometimes it is. But I often have students who find collateral careers that are just as rewarding as paralegaling or law school. This week, I have the privilege of writing a graduate school recommendation for one of my paralegal graduates who thought he was going to law school, but in the end, he's working for the Division of Children and Families and saving the most endangered children in the state of Florida. And he's got the strength of character to be able to do that over a long haul. Most of us could do something like that once or twice, and then the emotional devastation would be too much for us. But he will be great for at least 10 years before he grows to his next position. So we are, by and large, a first generation in college institution. Many of our faculty are first generation in their families to go to college. Many of our colleagues and employees are first generation to go to college. And a huge majority of our students are the first in their family to go to college. And I guess what I wish everybody would remember is how terrifying it is to take a step into the unknown. It's really hard when you think you're the only person who doesn't understand all of the secret language. And once you get to be lucky enough to be in my position, it's so easy to forget that there are people who are befuddled by figuring out our parking lot and if they're going to get a ticket. And that can keep you from going to college. Also, remembering how devastating it is to get a 0 on a test. 0 is nothing, and it makes people who are predisposed to think of themselves as not good enough feel like nothing. So if we could just remember what it felt like to be unsure, I think all of us would do better at our jobs every day. So I would say that the gaps our students experience, the most common one is a gap in self-confidence. They do not feel like they know enough to even ask a question. So they're silent. And you know, one of the rules of life is if you don't ask, you don't get, right? So not asking the question, you're for sure not going to get the answer. So self-confidence, helping people build the self-esteem to be willing to put themselves out there, to show themselves to be ignorant, be willing to fail. That's really hard in today's society. Nobody wants to fail at anything, and yet the only way you can do a math problem is to try, right? And if you don't know how to do this math problem, that would be why you're taking this class. So figuring out not the answer, but the process to the answer is far more important than the X or the check on the paper. So I come from a family of teachers, and in my family, teaching meant actually having students, not being in administration. So one of the deals I made with myself was I would get to teach every semester. So that means I have actual students every semester. And then I have another habit that I have evolved over the years, which is that when students graduate, I hold what I call exit interviews with 25 to 35 students who are on their way out. Some of them might be graduates of my program. Some of them might be AA graduates. Some of them might be certificate graduates who are only here for 6, 7, 8 classes. But when I do those exit interviews, the questions are always the same, and they have been for the last 20 years. What did you like best about SPC? What was really challenging for you about SPC? And what advice would you give somebody who is just starting at SPC. And I would say the main advice people have held to over and over again over these decades is people work at St. Petersburg College because they want to make a difference, but only you can tell them what kind of difference. So please ask for help. That's what everybody says. Know there are so many resources, and if you can't find the right resource, go talk to somebody because they know somebody who connects you with the right resource. And let me also say that one of the best pieces of advice I got from a student was, he said, one teacher told me, this is not a good time. There's too much stuff going on in your life. You need to not be in school when you can't be in school. So take a break, come back to us when you are ready. And he thought to himself, as that teacher said that to him, I'll never be ready, so this is it for school. And then he realized there's another semester coming up. I can dig out enough time for one class or two classes. And he changed his approach. And that's the big piece of advice, and the way to sort of keep in touch with what the mission is just ask people what they wish they knew when they came here. That's the easiest thing. Everybody needs help onboarding. Some of us need help completing. And I will tell you that I periodically encounter students who feel so comfortable at St. Petersburg College that they are afraid to graduate. And that's a perfectly reasonable and natural fear. But it's our job to try and figure that out. And we actually run a query to find out who are the students that only need 6 credits, 9 credits, or 12 credits to graduate. About 50% of them know that they only have a little bit. And there's that fear that is keeping them. But the other 50% had no idea that they were that close to the end. So it's worth chatting with people about. So teaching gives you the opportunity to change somebody's life every day. I'm a lawyer by training. I practice law. I continue to teach law school students and work with trial teams. But the thing that really keeps me up is the fear that I have missed saying to someone the thing that would change their life, that I just did not see what that student needed. Can I tell you a story? So I had a student, one of the assignments I have in one of my classes, which is called Logic in the Law, is to read a very old law review article that analyzes all of the testimony in the Lizzie Borden trial. And it's pretty complicated. And Lizzie Borden was charged with the murder of her father and stepmother in 1893. She was the only woman in the courtroom. Well, that's not exactly true. She was the only woman in the courtroom with any agency. The judge was a man, all the court personnel were men, all of the jurors were men, the prosecutors and defense attorneys were all men. And she was acquitted. And for many years, people said, oh, well, she was just acquitted because nobody wanted to believe that a woman could commit a brutal murder like that. So this is a really hard look at a different time for my students when they look at that courtroom and the evidence that the state introduced in that case. And I had a student who came in and she looked at all of that evidence in a completely different way. They were supposed to diagram the state's case. That's the assignment, diagram the state's case. She came in with this long swim chart of before, during, after, with like swim lanes of stuff that is sort of persuasive, stuff that is not persuasive at all and stuff that's persuasive. It was fascinating. And I'd had this assignment for a number of years and nobody had ever looked at it lengthwise. They'd already all looked at it the up and down way, right? Not the across way. So I happened to be at class early that night and I said to her, that was really fabulous. You made me think about this in a way I never thought about it before. And she began weeping. And I said, I'm sorry, did I say something wrong? And what's going on? Or, trying not to be too intrusive. And she said, Ms. Demers, nobody has ever said anything like that to me before. It was pretty bad on me because she was a solid B+ student. Not one of those glittering A students, but exactly the person you want to hire. Somebody who shows up every day and does their job thoroughly with attention to detail. And I learned a really big lesson that day, which is it's easy to pay attention to the people who are struggling, and it's easy to pay attention to the people that are glittering stars. But there are a lot of people who have never had their effort acknowledged. And that's a power that I have every day, and I don't take it lightly anymore. Well, of course, I would always invite them to participate here at SPC. We've got advisory committees that need to be staffed. We have students who need the opportunity to shadow in jobs. And one of the things about popular media, and I'm not here to bash popular media because I'm a big consumer of popular media, but one of the problems is that there are a lot of jobs that never get represented at all because they're complicated. And so I forget how many minutes there are in a typical half-hour TV program now. I think it's 22. Well, there's a lot of shorthand you have to use in order to put a beginning, middle, and end of a story in 22 minutes, right? So having somebody come to your workplace and interview them as a mock interview or walk them around so they could see the range of opportunities at just one business. People think that if you are an engineer, all engineers do the same kind of work. Couldn't be farther from the truth, right, engineers? But people don't understand that everything in this world has to be engineered. And the same with my career, practice of law. There are a zillion ways to practice law. And they require completely different skill sets. Now, I would say to everybody, you need to take a business law class. So I would say to those leaders, come back and take a class in our classroom. That will help you. Just being an auditor in a classroom will help you understand who the workforce is in Pinellas County and what they have to offer. So I would guess that standing in the gap, for me, looks like being willing to act on the opportunity to change other people's lives. And to do it in a supportive as well as truthful way. People can sense when things are not genuine, right? But we have a tremendous opportunity here at SPC every single day to do something for one person that will change the trajectory of their lives for forever. We need to take advantage of those opportunities.
My name is Raquel Hairston. I am the proud principal of St. Petersburg Collegiate STEM High School at our downtown campus, and I'm excited that I get to choose daily to stand in the gap. When I think about how I landed in education is quite the story. I actually went to school to be an anchorwoman. I majored in radio, TV, and broadcasting, and I knew I was going to be the next Connie Chung or Oprah Winfrey. And my only sister was diagnosed with cancer when she was 16. And during that time, she was on hospital homebound. And there was a teacher that came to our home that worked with my sister. And while I was in college, my professor would always say to me, Raquel, you're going to end up in a classroom one day. And I'm saying, are you serious? I don't even like kids. I'm not going to end up in a classroom. So watching that teacher come to our house week after week, working with my sister while she was fighting cancer and trying to learn math at the same time, I thought about the impact that she made not only on my sister when her body was riddled with pain. We saw her smile when that teacher showed up every week. That situation really made an impact on me. And I thought, I want to make a difference. I really want to make a difference. And so that situation led me to education. I thought about the difference that educators make, the power that we possess to alter a child's destiny, to change a child's life. And I wanted to be a part of something greater than myself. So when I think about my role and standing in the gap and what standing in the gap means, so I'm a person of faith, and I understand what standing in the gap means in a religious context. And I take some of those principles into my role now as a high school leader. And I believe it's my job to advocate for students, to put them in the position to be successful. I've often been referred to as the pushback girl because I always question, why are we doing it this way? Looking at policies, looking at procedures that adversely impact certain student populations. And I think it's important for us to examine those systemic structures. And just because we've done it this way for millions of years does not mean it's a path that we should continue, especially as we examine and see it's not working for a particular group of students. And I believe it's my job to question these policies, these practices, these behaviors, especially as I study the data and I see the trend data shows me that this is not good for our scholars. So this is something that I am really, really passionate about. Knowing my purpose and what I'm here to do on this earth, I believe it's important I participated in a workshop a while ago, and in this workshop, we were asked to create our own personal mission. And I'd never really been challenged to think about my why of being. And as I sat and I thought about it, my personal mission is to create safe spaces for people to be the most authentic version of themselves. And I think when you think about advocacy and advocating for people, it's advocating for people who sometimes don't even know they need help. It's advocating for our students and getting them to realize that they can achieve at high levels. My job is to help increase the self-efficacy of not only our students, but our teachers, getting them to believe in themselves and getting them to believe that you can do this. That's why I think it's important for not just my role, but the importance of educators is, again, it goes back to helping us to realize how much power we have over our students and making sure they have access, they have opportunity, and they have high self-efficacy, getting them to believe in themselves. What keeps me up at night? Again, this is something that I'm extremely passionate about. And when scholars don't see their value and when scholars do not take advantage of the resources that are available, when scholars make difficult decisions for their lives to step away from the opportunities and the resources that we provide, it keeps me up at night when a scholar will withdraw from our program or when they make poor choices. And we talk about relationships and we talk about investing. It's my job to go above and beyond, to advocate, and that's what I do. But it really keeps me up at night because everyone has free will. And when they decide not to take advantage of the access, the opportunities, the resources that we provide, that is what keeps me up at night. Actually, I'm working through a situation right now where I know that what we do matters. I know that we add value to our students' lives. And I'm dealing with a student right now who is really struggling with belonging in our school, belonging in our program. She doesn't believe that she deserves to be in our program. this is also a student that has admitted struggling with substance abuse. Again, it goes back to my personal mission of creating safe spaces for people to be an authentic version of themselves. And this student admitted to me that she has been an avid marijuana smoker, and she is trying to get clean. And she shares with me her journey of getting clean with this particular app. And so every day we check in and I say, how many days? And she said, it's 10 days. Or she'll say, I had to reset. I'm now at 3 days. I fell off, but I got back up. So for me, it's not just about academics. It's not just about making sure that you have that GPA, making sure that you are on track to get that high school diploma and that AA degree. It's about wraparound services and making sure we're supporting that scholar in every aspect. And I said, I believe in you, and I know that we can get through this together. And she has my personal cell number. And I said, when things get tough, you can text me and I will help be your accountability partner. So I've been a principal for a long time. This is my 15th year as a principal, and I've had the opportunity, the privilege to serve in many roles. I've served as an elementary principal. I've served as a high school principal. This opportunity is very unique. I was excited when I was asked to be principal of the Gibbs campus, but even more excited when I transitioned to the downtown campus. I am passionate about learning for all scholars, but I am extremely passionate about learning for students that are historically underrepresented in these settings. I've been a Black face in a predominantly white environment my entire career. And sometimes students from underrepresented populations need an advocate. And I'm not saying you got to look like me in order to advocate for me, but I do think that representation matters. So when I took the position at the downtown campus, I was excited to see the opportunity and access that we provided to students from historically underrepresented populations. We swung that door open, and I absolutely love my position, and I love the scholars that I get to pour into every day. We talk a lot about relationships, and relationships are very important. But again, I believe that part of building a relationship is working with that student. And it's about belief, getting that student to see their potential, getting that student to, again, I talk about self-advocacy. A lot of our students do not believe in their own potential. They don't believe that they can perform at high levels. And so my job as a principal, my job as an advocate is to get them to see and get them to believe that they can achieve at high levels. Relationship, again, it goes back to my personal mission of creating that safe space. When I create that safe space, I provide an opportunity for them to become transparent. I lead with authenticity. I lead with transparency. And in doing that, it creates an opportunity for kids to share. I don't know that I believe that I can do this. I'm a first-generation student. No one's ever graduated from college in my entire family. I'm really struggling. And it's my job to be there to hold them up and to let them know that you can do this. So when we talk about relationships, we're really talking about getting that student, in addition to creating those safe spaces, but getting that student to believe in themselves.
I'm Ryan Halstead, and I'm the proud principal of St. Petersburg Collegiate High School, North Pinellas, at the St. Petersburg College Tarpon Springs campus. And I'm proud to stand in the gap for my students and my staff. So getting into education was not my original choice, but I had some very profound memories of watching my mom, who was a 30-year educator in Pinellas County Schools. As a kid growing up, trying to decide what I wanted to be. Of course, I wanted to be an athlete. And then when I went to college, I actually wanted to be in broadcast journalism. But I remember watching my mom teach and come home and never remembering her have a bad day. I remember her always excited about going to school in the morning, coming back, talking about her interactions with her students. And then I remember my dad always telling me about, you're going to have to work. You're going to have a career. Make sure that you choose a career that you love, that you're passionate about, and that'll carry you. You don't want to work to work just to have a job. And he was an entrepreneur and had some ups and downs. So those two messages were very probably not explicitly but I observed it as a kid growing up. And when I went to college, I was pursuing coaching basketball. I was fortunate enough to work at a small private school coaching basketball. I kind of moved up. And it was about 21, 22 years old where I realized that I was able to have strong relationships with the students that I was coaching, but also working in different capacities. And that there was a bond that I was able to develop with them. And so, cliche, but I also met my wife, who was also pursuing an education degree, and decided at that point I would do it just to give myself an opportunity to have an education degree while I was pursuing basketball coaching. And it was at that time when I started teaching that I was like, wait a second, I have a talent for this. I do enjoy the impact I'm making. And so it was through basketball, but also seeing that just my mom's career and how successful she was as a high school teacher that gave me that desire to pursue a career in education. So I had a great career in the classroom. I was extremely just proud of the opportunity I had to work with some tremendous scholars, some very motivated, accelerated students that allowed me to kind of push them. And how do I make them grow? And that excited me. But I also noticed that there were other students in my school. I was working at a very large school in the local district, and there were some underserved students. And realizing that they're teenagers and they need to have someone to believe in them, to advocate for them. And I also had an assistant principal who, to be honest, at that time I did not truly see eye to eye with. And I remember he called me to his office one day and he said, Ryan, you can be a part of the problem and be part of sometimes talking and not trying to, or you can be a part of the solution. I see leadership in you, and I see that you have the ability to have people follow, but you can do it in a negative way or you can do it in a positive way. And I appreciated the fact that even though we weren't close, that he took the time to believe in me and, really gave me a gut check at that time. I was probably a little too brash, and to say, eat some humble pie almost, to just say, you know what, let me use some of the talents that I have to maybe, go in, be a positive, not be that teacher in the, staff lunchroom talking about the problems and adding to that, but also saying, you know what, we do have students in here that needs an advocate, need someone. And so the opportunity to move into that assistant principal role at this large school was one of the most challenging positions I've had, but also it was able for me, there was a belief among some colleagues that like, oh, he's always taught in these accelerated programs. Let's see how he does. And instantaneously we saw students just gravitate towards my office and asking for help, and they're, seeing that I believe in them, and that, one of my biggest philosophies is there's no doghouse. Every day is a new day. You can have a bad day the day before, but today I'm going to say hi to you. We're going to say we're going to have a great day, and we're going to believe in you. And started seeing that impact, and I was really proud that I was a part of our school to see some of the highest graduation rates the 2 years I was in that position, and then affording me to then come over to Collegiate High School and take some of those skills and be able to apply them at a smaller, but an environment that allows you to kind of do a little bit more deeper work, which was exciting. So, being able to be a role model and really serve students, that's what we do this for, this ability. But being a principal, I also see standing in the gap to the adults that I get to work with, our teachers. I feel very privileged that in the 3 years that I was working as an assistant principal, that I got to see that in a way of where we put the growth model in practice. People talk about growing, people talk about getting better and improving every day, but I got to observe it. I got to observe it through working with Miss Hairston as a principal. I got to see it with my teachers that were in the building, and their desire to want to get better, and their desire. And so I see that question in two lenses. If we can stand in the gap for the adults that we're working with who are in front of those students on a daily basis and serve them by giving them resources, showing them how to improve, modeling what growth looks like on our own, they can then turn around and do that with the students. And so this year particularly, I've been able to see such tremendous growth by my staff, and this desire for feedback coming to myself and my assistant principal say, what do you think I should do with my lesson plans? Do you think I'm asking them to, I'm getting them to think critically? You think that I'm getting them to collaborate and do some of these skills? And then on a more one-on-one basis with students, the opportunity for them to believe in themselves. For them sometimes, they're teenagers, so their range of emotions, but giving them to understand that mistakes are okay. Learning from mistakes is how people grow. And trying to, so my philosophy is really trying to push this growth mindset. And same thing, taking every day is a new day, try to get better every day. And even if it's not the same growth as yesterday, if you're growing and moving forward, you're going to hit your goals, you're going to achieve your goals. So those are some of the philosophies and my own personal philosophies that I implement, I try to every day. And I think by product, it allows us to stand in the gap. And that's one of the things that I want to do is empower my teachers and the adults in the building to do that, because they see me doing that for them, because they're the ones, quite honestly, who have the most frequent contact with the students on a day-to-day basis. I think how do we continue to push students and get them to believe in themselves, get the adults to believe in themselves? Feedback. I see some real powerful tools that we can use to empower people's voices. When our students feel like they're heard, when our teachers feel like they're heard, and then they see maybe implementation based on some of that voice, they feel like they're seen. And it's one thing to talk the talk and tell them every day, I believe in you, I believe in you, I believe in you. But when you ask them for their feedback, is this working? Is this not working? What would you like to see differently? What do you see that's happening, that's working? And we continue. So those tools are something that I feel we are utilizing in a very strategic way to just make sure that we're not just talking about the academics, but also how are they growing as students? How are they growing as people? How are we, what instructional practices are we using in our building that the students really like, that then we implement? And, also looking at our adults and our students and say, leadership is one of the cornerstones that is threaded throughout the collegiate high schools. We want to develop leaders. And so making sure that we emphasize you all are leaders in different ways. Our teachers are leaders in their classroom. Our students are leaders, whether it's a group project they're implementing or, pursuing. So just elevating their voice. And I think that's the thing, when the students start developing that confidence that their voice is being heard and they develop those advocacy skills, those are all elements that they then become standing in the gap for each other, the teachers, and it just kind of trickles down. And those are things that I feel we're doing at a very effective way at our campus. And it's really fun to see, because in a lot of ways, this was my first principal position, and it's brand new. I've got new teachers that have never been in collegiate. So we're all on this journey together, and it's been pretty exciting. So, it's always like, when you think about all the different examples that we have, on a day-by-day basis, when you become an educator and you're doing this for a long time, you see some things that happen in the background of students that haven't overcome adversity. A lot of times it's easy to forget that when they come to us, there's stuff going on at home that is impacting, whether they're ready to learn that day or ready to just and so I think about some of the work we did on this campus as an assistant principal with Ms. Hairston as a principal, some of the things where, we had students that, quite honestly, one in particular was an ELL student. English was second language, and her tenacity to try to pass the PERT test. She took the PERT test multiple times, and our ability to put her in front of her teachers, to give her those resources, to give her that belief that she could do it. That was and she was from a family where females were not always pushed to be, education wasn't the primary focus. The brothers and the males were so culture different. She was from Africa. And then getting to see her on her almost second to last opportunity to meet that requirement, to meet the standard or the requirements to move into junior year, she did it. And the smile that she had of not just passing it, but just realizing the opportunity she now could continue to pursue with our school, and the belief she had with the adults in the building trying to advocate for her, encourage her. And then, last year I moved schools, but to see her graduate with a high school diploma, and at that graduation ceremony, all three principals that she had worked with over that, walking down that stage, that was a real proud moment because it was someone that you just knew you made a difference for, and multiple people as a team made that difference. And that's one of the things that I love about what we do here at Collegiate High School is we all recognize we're in a team, whether in the same school or across the three schools. We work together knowing that we're offering something very unique. So that was a proud moment that I saw multiple people in our team stand in that gap for that student, and she achieved some great things. I think if I'm being blunt, there's a lot of ignorance out there because sometimes what's in the media and what's in society is not painting a real accurate picture. Because I have a lot of close friends of mine who are in the private sector, and I know at social gatherings, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm a principal, or I work in a high school. Oh, that must be really tough. That must be really hard. And I always say, no, it's actually a privilege. It's an honor. I believe, we all are in this because we know that we're serving students and making an impact on giving them skills to become well-rounded people, to move our country, our society, our world forward and make it better. So it's a real important responsibility educators have. And, I see value in that. I get really proud of that opportunity. I get to do it in a very small setting because of the size of our school, but we take pride in it, and in my team, we tell them it is an honor every day to come into that work day. It doesn't feel like work; it just feels like we're coming in and being able to serve. I try to take humility in that opportunity, and knowing that I'm getting someone else's kid who's coming in here and trusting me and trusting my team to give them our best, and in turn they will give us their best. And I'm very fortunate that in just under 20 years of being an educator, the relationships that I've built with students and staff and colleagues has been just extremely rewarding. It's the best profession, and I could not imagine myself in any other profession that I wasn't able to serve others and just watch that growth of just not only the adults that I work with now currently, but all the students from 10th grade when they walk in our door and when they graduate as seniors, and then when they come back and tell us, oh, I'm doing this, or I even now have students that get married, having their own children, and they're like, hey, Mr. Halstead, I just want you to know this is what's going on. And it's a real special, it's really an honor. I feel totally privileged that I get to see that growth in individuals. I think it's the things we can't control. So, what makes me most concerned, it's sometimes the things I can't control, things that knowing that, for instance, maybe some hardships that our students have to face and that we can't be there to try to help in the immediacy navigate. And a lot of times we have to try to help counsel them or provide feedback or advice on how to navigate those things. I mean, that's a lot of what keeps me is the things necessarily I can't control. I feel confident that what we do on a daily basis and the time we have them is impacting them in a positive way, and that they know that we care, but we also know that we want them accountable and develop, good decision-making skills and, good lifelong skills of being able to be productive members of our society. But it's the non-controllables, that sometimes I think are a little bit stressful, especially when a student is going into a situation where they leave our school. Then maybe they're having to work, maybe they're having, to deal with some family issues at home that impact them. And then also trying to navigate and push those levers to say we still want to see them be successful in the classroom, but sometimes that's not as important as them just being able to be cared for and to know that they have adults that believe in them. And it's that balance sometimes when you're dealing with some tough issues. And I think that's the misnomer that exists out there too, is that they think because we have students that want to be successful and recognize this opportunity that they don't have to face some of the same issues that all students face. I mean, teenage life can be tough. So I think those are the things that keep me up. But trying to make sure that we're advocating for them. And every day we walk in, it's like, we're here. We're going to wrap our arms around you, figuratively and literally if we have to, and just, help get them through. I think that's the rewarding part that actually offsets any stress that I do feel at night. Yeah, one of the things that keep me up at night is the uncontrollables, the things that we can't control that our students face, whether it's hardships at home or in their personal lives that we just don't have that impact to stop. I am the proud principal of St. Petersburg Collegiate High School, North Pinellas, one of our 3 collegiate high schools in the St. Pete College organization. What makes collegiate high school stand out in my mind is the opportunity for digging deeper in the work that is done, the relationships that are built. Relationships are one of the key components to helping students be successful, and just being a part of seeing what those relationships look like from predecessors that came in and their power that they had over the students, and not over, but with the students, empowering students. I think that what we do, because we're able to build such strong relationships, we can push them, we can make them believe, but we're also developing wraparound skills, from collaborative skills to leadership skills to communication skills. And we're allowing them to grow in an rigorous academic environment, but in an academic environment that provides personal care. Every adult, I've never worked in an environment where I can truly say without a doubt that every adult in that building wants the best for those students and care about those students. And you see it when they walk across that stage at our high school graduation, where it's almost like a contest of how many names are going to be mentioned, from every teacher to the student support advisor. And just knowing that those students know that when they leave that building, they're like, I had an experience where every adult in this building knew who I was, knew something personal about me, that they knew me as a person, and then helped work to make sure that my goals were accomplished. And I think that setting of what we can provide, because we're such a small personalized learning environment, separates us from other schools. We have that opportunity, and we take advantage of that opportunity by truly getting to know these students. I mean, the personal relationships that exist in the collegiate high schools is without a doubt, bar none, to any other educational experience I've seen in my career, but also from colleagues who are in other school settings. I feel very proud of what we do in those relationship building that allows them to then accelerate as people and also academically. So the benefits of the collegiate high school in terms of 21st century skills, when we're looking at what they have to be able to do to go into a career, we know technology is a very powerful tool that students have access to, and students have more access to it than we've ever seen. So I believe communication is one of the biggest skill sets that we're able to help develop students with. We work really hard on how to communicate, whether it's through the written word, through email communication, through how they write in their essays and how they write in their academics, but also in the verbal communication skills. And we often talk about nonverbal, how nonverbal sets a stage. So I'm very proud of watching how students develop in our programs through the interactions with teachers, through the guidance that our support staff helps model for them, how to make sure you're advocating for yourself, but also communicating in an appropriate manner to a professor or to a teacher. So those communication skills, I think, separate, and the attention we can give to developing those communication skills explicitly, but also implicitly through some of our added value curriculum we offer. The one-on-one opportunities, but also through our work that our counselors do, where they're in front of our students on a regular basis, whether it's through college applications or career explorations. Those are all part of the added value curriculum that our students get that help develop communication skills, leadership skills, a lot of collaboration. You know, in the 21st century, collaboration is, you have to be able to work well with people. You don't have to necessarily be best friends, but you have to be able to work together for a common goal. And a lot of what we do in the classroom is collaborative in nature, where they have to work with other students and be able to present a final product, a presentation. So there's a lot of embedded curriculum that we do explicitly to help bring out what I think are very important 21st century skills like communication, collaboration, and of course leadership. And we haven't talked about some of the extracurricular activities, but those also are embedded in terms of opportunities that we provide our students that help develop those things as well. Standing in the gap for my students, for me, it means we're going to get better every day. We're going to grow every day. And if we make mistakes, we know that doesn't necessarily have to take us off our path. Those are great learning opportunities that we can take from it to continue moving forward and growing. And oftentimes mistakes, some might call failure, can often lead to the best opportunities for growth. And so we can't shy away from those. We have to be accountable to times that we may make mistakes or fail, but we also have great opportunity to learn from them to even grow even further as a person. And that's what's, to me, standing in the gap is showing that growth, and having that growth mindset is the key to being able to grow every day as a person and as a student. And that's what that means. And trying to model that is what I try to do.
I'm Kimberly Jackson. I am the Executive Director for the Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions. I am proud to stand in the gap for those who don't have a voice. Yes, my transition from practicing law was not really my choice. I have a daughter who has challenges at the time. She's a person with Asperger's syndrome. I was in the midst of a huge trial practice, a successful one, and I received this diagnosis from a doctor that altered my moral compass and made me think about what I needed to do for my family. And at the time, I thought, should I just go home, or should I continue to give and try to balance this new space? So my former law professor, who was a dean at this college, Dean Susan Demers, suggested that I try education. I tried education at both USF and St. Pete College. And quite frankly, at the time, St. Pete College was the space where I felt I could be of most service and where I could learn the most, particularly at this juncture. So that's how I transitioned into education. Absolutely. So education means a lot to me because I come from a family of educators. Two of my aunts are former school superintendents for major cities, one from Phoenix, Arizona, and one from St. Paul, Minnesota. I grew up watching them in the classroom. I know what it takes to give your best to a student. And when you find that center of excellence, what it means to see that student shine. And my child was not receiving that. Unfortunately, there were a lot of challenges trying to get her from one school system to another, trying to explain that her disorder made her incredibly brilliant, but socially with challenges, trying to always explain that she had a strong voice, but someone had to be patient to listen to it, and advocating and educating myself on both sides, on what the teacher was experiencing in terms of resources, lack of education, lack of support in dealing with children who are neurodiverse, and also on the other side, what the families are experiencing with, again, lack of resources is quite expensive to help a child, to have the patience to educate yourself when you have a work, family, other kids, other responsibilities. So the transition was, at the time, just difficult. There's no other word to say it. I firmly felt that for me, I was blessed. I was blessed to be with my spouse of, at the time, over 3 decades, now a little bit longer. I was blessed to have financial support, not wealthy, but doing okay. I was blessed to be educated enough to utilize my skill set to help her. And I had a lot of friends in the community to make sure that I was using that network to go to the right places to navigate systems. And I thought all of that would be best used of not just receiving it for myself, but giving it to students who really needed it, who needed to understand that they're not alone. And just because an exterior looks like a certain way does not mean that people aren't experiencing the exact same challenges. With regard to my students, what I'd like people to know about my students, that the students at St. Pete College are incredible. I mean, I have had the privilege of teaching students from South St. Pete to Tarpon. I helped with the Model UN team, our successful winning Model UN team that we're all very proud of. I've led clubs. I've engaged with the students before school, after school. They're just incredible. They're bright. They're often some of the smartest people I've ever met. Their survivor skills are completely intact. Some of them have challenges that everyday families have. They have challenges with transportation. They have challenges with housing. They have challenges with understanding how to go to college if they're the first time in college student. Some of them have those resources, but don't have the strength or wherewithal to figure out, how do I get this confidence to go to the next level? What I love the most about our students, wherever I meet a St. Pete College student, whether they're still on campus, whether they've left and come back, or whether they've gone on to greater heights, or whether they've gone on and they're still having challenges, is that they appreciate the experience they have at SPC, and they're very honest with us about what they need to be successful. That's what I love about the students. And so, what do I want people to know about my daughter? Well, she's a success story. That's the biggest thing. I transferred specifically to this college, and my peers at this college, some of whom don't even know that how much they've helped me, they are excellent faculty, and they help our students in immeasurable ways. My daughter is quirky, funny, interesting, all the things that every other kid her age is. And I guess what I'd like people to know about neurodiverse people is that if you've met one, you've met one, and give them a chance, because they are the creatives of our world. Oh, that's a long list for me. So in terms of people who have stood in the gap for me, is a very long list. I have benefit from being mentored. I believe in mentorship, so I believe in mentoring because I was mentored. Those two aunts that I mentioned, they showed me what it looked like. You know, you think about a time when particularly those women of a certain age during the civil rights movement and what they had to endure to become superintendents in the first place. They were both first time in college students, so they were the first generation of our family to be educated. And what I watched them go through to make sure that we had a leveling playing field was just astronomically incredible to a little child trying to figure it out. But in terms of what they showed me is that everyone can help if you give someone a chance. And so that standing in the gap, when I came to our county and I became a lawyer, I can't tell you how many attorneys who mentored me, supported me. I was a non-traditional student as well, married with a young child, didn't have the time to have fun and play around. And these particular lawyers in the community, particularly in the St. Petersburg and Clearwater Bar Associations, they went over leaps and bounds to help me when I had hearings, JAs, watching my daughter so I could have the hearing. When I just gave birth, JAs, taking a lot of, I would say, chances to make sure the schedule was just so I could make sure I was there at the right time. For the many, many men who helped me, who said, you know, I know that she's a mom and she has this challenging schedule with her children, but she's good at what she does. So we're going to make sure she gets the opportunity to do what she needs to do so that she has the same chance at becoming a successful attorney. From people who introduced me to board work, I sit on several boards because people wanted to see me rise. And it'd be too many people to name. People here right at this college, including the dean that you just interviewed, Dean Susan Demers, felt enough about me to say that, I want to make sure that you have balance. And then just moms in the community who, when I was with my younger child and I needed support with my older child, they helped with my older child so I could give more attention to my young child. I appreciate that village. I don't think that people really understand the benefits when you create a true, strong village. I have come around on that topic in large part for the college and because of my experience with my daughter. I'm one of those traditional students. I went and got my bachelor's degree, I went and got my master's degree, I went and got my JD. And thankfully, I've been able to use those. But I have now come full circle in really understanding that, the workforce is important for our very survival. And to all the entities that don't understand that, a small picture, if you will, I don't think the county really could survive without St. Pete College. I think about the paralegals that we put out. I think about the officers that we help and support, the firefighter programs, the older programs that have sunsetted, the nursing program, all the medical extra programs, the technology that we push out, the humanities that we push out, These are everyday skill sets that the big corporations need to function. We have a lot of corporations in St. Petersburg and throughout the county that people don't know about. And these very skilled, soft niche skills are important. We're putting people straight to work. But oftentimes you have these students who come in and they just don't know where they fit. They don't know what they like. They don't know what they will be good at. And we've been told everyone should be a doctor, lawyer, or, a nurse or a teacher. And so when they start layering these potential avenues of what they can be, it's important for the workforce to be ready to receive these students who are talented, ready, and need to be mentored to be a strong portion of our continued workforce. I think continued education is such a personal journey. So let me say this. I love everyone who helps me keep life going. You think about in your day-to-day life, your hairstylist, your mechanic, your plumber, your electrician, the person you go to for advice on lawn maintenance or graphics or photographs. I mean, there are so many vocational spaces that I can name just off the top of my head that you use in a day-to-day business. And I think in terms of just education in general, continuing education, it is such a personal journey. So when I talk about that center of excellence, that's not something I coined. My aunt who shared that with me, that when someone has a center of excellence, we don't know what it is until we explore it. And so to have the opportunity for a person to have that chance of exploring who they are designed and meant to be is something that we should all support. Standing in the gap to me means that you can't be what you can't see. So a lot of times, particularly when I was in more of a position with students on a day-to-day basis, I really wanted to talk to them about my journey and also being nimble about that journey so that people know that the leaders that they see, they didn't have a straight line getting there. And they may not have a straight line as they move on to whatever is in their future. But we have to have these tough conversations with our students who are struggling to understand and figure out what they want to do with their lives. And standing in the gap means to me taking the time to listen, taking the time to truly connect someone with a leader when they tell you and have the vulnerability to share what they want to do. And supporting them not with just words, but with actions. Because our actions really tell us what type of community we are. The responsibilities, I'm laughing because people who know me who will be viewing this know that it makes me way too serious. I think a lot of people who don't have resources, I think a lot about people who have English as a second language, for example, and have challenges even being brave enough to ask for help. And I think about people who don't even know how much is out there for them if they would lend themselves. And then I think about the people who have support to help and how much we can do as a community to help those individuals. And that keeps me up a lot at night. I always say when people ask me, why do you do so much? Because, we want taxpayers, not tax suckers. And so if we all believe in that people have a role to give, then what keeps me up at night is, not letting anyone feel that they have the opportunity to give of their fair share, whatever that looks like for them. Standing in the gap looks, for me, of helping others find their voice, helping others find their greater meaning, and helping others get to the path that they're meant to be on.
My name is Ian Call. I'm the principal of St. Petersburg Collegiate High School on the St. Petersburg Gibbs campus. I'm proud to stand in the gap for my students at St. Petersburg Collegiate High School. So I actually wanted to be a teacher before I even went into college. I always wanted to be a teacher, never changed my major, never changed my mind. And so I think it really just came from my teachers that were in high school. I had so many great teachers. They were engaging, friendly, and they were just awesome at what they wanted to do. And I said, that seems like a really, really great job. They seemed to really enjoy it. The students enjoyed them. I said, I'd like to do that every day, where you come to school and teach people, help students solve problems, be in front of the room. I think the biggest influence for me being a teacher was I had a teacher named Mr. Williams. I had him a couple of times. He taught a lot of electives, but he taught law studies. And so it was an interesting class, and he did a good job. But I remember one of the big things in that class was to put on trials, put in a little courtroom. And so first I was the lawyer, and I really enjoyed that. But then he made me the judge for the next trial. And so I feel like that was the first time that a teacher, really saw me as a person. I was a quiet kid, was not terribly engaging in the classroom. That was the first time that, someone said, Ian, you've got something special, so you can be the judge in that classroom. And so I still think back to him. And when I was a teacher, I modeled a lot of the things that I try to do in the classroom off of Mr. Williams. So that was the biggest impact. But really it was just all the teachers that I had that were engaging, that really enjoyed that job, what they did, really enjoyed young people. And I wanted to be like them. So I decided to become a teacher. And my whole time in college, I wanted to be a teacher, and I stuck with it. And then when I became a teacher, I really enjoyed it. I remember the first time when someone called me Mr. Call. I was like, what? It was such a great experience to be that person, be that leader in the classroom, to see them engaged in what I was doing. And so I've always wanted to be in education. And ever since I've been an adult, I've been in education. So I'm inspired by my students every day. And so one of the things here at the Collegiate High School is we have, I think, the best mission statement of any school in the entire world. It's very clear, tells the students, tells everyone what we're about. And our mission statement at Collegiate High School is for students to get not only their high school diploma, but also their AA degree and a Bright Future Scholarship. So when we're doing information sessions, right, first time we're interacting with students, with parents, I tell them it's not just our mission, but if you decide to come here, it's also your mission. And so I love it when we have all these different students from all different backgrounds taking on the same mission. They're saying, I'm coming here because I want to achieve that. And they know that they have people, resources that are going to help them achieve that. One of the things I tell them is, right, you do the work, we'll take care of the rest. So when students come here, they know that. If they need a book, they come to the office, they're going to get that book. If they need help, if they need tutoring, they need to help on a test that's coming up, they can come to a math teacher, they can come to English teacher, they're going to get that help. And so really, it's really inspiring when you see students take on that mission for themselves, because they know what it means to them. They know what it means to have that AA degree, that high school diploma, and that scholarship. I tell students a lot of times, when I was in high school, I didn't have it together enough to do this program, right? You have to be motivated, right? You have to stay on top of things, right? It takes a special student, right? Doesn't mean that you have to be off the charts test scores. Doesn't mean, right? You can have weaknesses, reading, right? Math. But if you take on that mission, we're here to help you, and you can achieve that. And so many of our students do it. And they do it because they're persistent, because they're motivated, and they stay on top of it. So it's at St. Petersburg Collegiate High School, the opportunity to get your AA is an amazing opportunity. It's an amazing experience. So the first thing is that students come in, they might not have any experience in post-secondary education. Their family might not have any experience in post-secondary education. Right? So if they come out of high school, even if they're a good student, they might not be prepared. They might not be prepared, right? What's the difference between a professor and a high school teacher? How do you manage setting a schedule? How do you find a pathway that's going to lead you to your degree? Our students, they've experienced all of that by being here. They've experienced it with support, right? So they know that they can achieve that because they have achieved it. So they've come here 2 years they spent in a college classroom, 2 years they've spent with our counselors, with our academic advisor, planning out their schedule, right? Planning out their learning path, making sure that they're on that path to be successful. And most importantly, they're also successful. So when they're going off to college, right? Maybe they don't have as much support, They're away from home. Okay? They know how to navigate a college campus. They know how to navigate a college classroom, and they know that they can be successful. They also have the means to be successful. They have that Bright Future Scholarship. They have the resources inside them. Most importantly, they have the determination to take advantage of those resources. For me, staying in the gap, I like to think of it, I'm going to rephrase that just a little bit about eliminating the gap. So one of the things I want to do for the students is there's lots of times when students come and they may have an issue that will keep them from being successful. So we want to eliminate that issue, right? So if they need additional guidance, we have extra school counselors here, just someone to talk to, right? So we've not stood in the gap, we've eliminated that gap. Now that student has someone, when they need to, they can talk to that person, right? If they have a gap, math gap, right? Maybe they're behind in algebra, right? We're going to eliminate that gap. So when they're in that college classroom, they're ready, just as ready as any other student in that college classroom. Same thing with reading. They come to us, maybe they're a little bit behind on the reading, we're going to eliminate that gap. So when they're in that college classroom, they're as ready as just as anyone else. When they leave the Collegiate High School, there's no gap. They're just as ready as anyone else because they've come to the Collegiate High School. So a lot of times we talk about the way to be successful is motivation. And so sometimes it's hard because we work with teenagers and they're not always as motivated as they need to. And really what they just need is time to cook. So if we can keep them here, keep them motivated enough, right, till that light bulb goes on, then it makes all the difference in the world, not just giving up them. I have a joke that I use when we're having, we have students that aren't performing as well as they need to, and we have conferences. The joke I use with the students is I say, when you get your diploma, it's going to have your name and my name on it, right? Because I'm working harder than you are, right? It's funny because my name is on all the diplomas too, right? But students really respond to that. They say, yes, I understand you're working hard. I'm not keeping my end of the bargain. And really, that's one of the things that I appreciate the most is because students come in, they're 10th graders, right? They're not ready for it. And it's our job to get them ready. Some of the students, they take to it just like that. They get ready in a hurry. Some takes longer to cook. And that's us. That's what we do, right? We give them the support. We give them the time that they need until that light bulb goes on. And then once it goes on, they're off to doing great things. So we see that, all the time, especially, we'll have students, they come in, they're not prepared. And sometimes they have to learn, through experience. And so when we do that, they come in and it's an amazing transformation for students that they do that from someone who's maybe C's get degrees, right? They're just trying to get by, do the minimum. But then being in this environment, what they see is that that's not how life works, right? C's get degrees, right? Maybe that's true, but that's not how it works in life, right? You have to be trying your best. You have to be doing your best at all times because that's how you're successful. And so over time, you can see them when they come in, they're a 10th grader, they're more worried about their TikTok than other things, right? But then, like I said, the light bulb goes on. They start thinking about the rest of their life. What's important to them, right? What am I going to do for the rest of my life? Right? These are important decisions. It's not just something, their learning plan, first sometimes it's just something they put on paper. But then it starts to become real for them. What do I want to do? Right? Why am I interested in this class? Why am I not interested in that class? And by the time they graduate, they've got a plan that they can put in place, right, when they go off to university, and that can carry them through, hopefully, successful for the rest of their lives. It's important for everyone to stand in the gap because these students are our future. They're our future leaders. They're your future employees. What kind of employees do you want? One of the great things about the Collegiate High Schools is it teaches students to be responsible, be self-starters. Those are the type of employees you want. Those are the type of politicians and leaders you want. Here at the Collegiate High School, we have a leadership program that teaches students, right, to take control of their own education, take control of the opportunities that they have. Those are the type of people that we want. those are the type of people that the Collegiate High School produces. So I would say, a lot of times the teenagers, they're just kids, but they're becoming adults. And it's up to us to help them determine what type of adults that they're going to be. And so it's important for all of us to be involved, right, in that pathway for those students in determining their future.